Hey, man. This one's gonna be called Closure. Did a piece, Supermajority, then Supermajority Revisited. And I was pretty happy with the pieces. You know, they had political overtones, and I was playing the guitar and every which thing there. And strong politics? No, not at all. There's some people with channels devoted purely to Mondo politics, whatever. In the first piece, I advocated dissolving the Republican Party within like a 50-year process because they seem to think that the Constitution mandates that they exist. Constitution mentions nothing about political parties. Political parties formed as a matter of American tradition. George Washington did not belong to a political party. The next president, Jefferson, was I can't remember if he was part of the Federalists or Anti-Federalists. I want to say he was a Federalist. But the Democrats traced their roots to him. He was what was also known as a Democratic Republican. And then they just knocked off the Republican part. He's a Democrat. They have a Jeffersonian, which is mostly landowners, landowning kind of a mentality. Jeffersonian democracy and Jacksonian. Jacksonian is a little more inclusive with minorities, ethnic minorities, gender, etc. Being involved in the political process. Anyhow, I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to have to skirt through a lot of this. And I want to address what I said about fascism as well, where I alluded to the filibuster and some of the behaviors of the Republicans in particular. From their side, I'm a libertarian, and let's keep stressing that. From the Republican side, they seem to accuse the Democrats of going into socialism, and I'm not sure if people understand what socialism is. These roads out here that these cars are traveling on outside, that's part of a socialist policy. Socialism exists when the government provides services instead of capitalism taking care of everything. What they're thinking of usually when they think of socialism, and the next step is direct communism, where the state owns everything. They don't just involve themselves in many things. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, for example, known as a communist country, ironically. Karl Marx, if you read the Communist Manifesto, I have checked out Wealth of Nations. I did a paper on Adam Smith. I'll read anything. That's 15 pages. The manifesto is 15 pages. And what they warn people of is robber barons treating people as resources. And part of this paper, which was prepared by Karl Marx and Engels, was the fact that the state and the church would wither away. So the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, they were known to be brutal. Stalin was a brutal man, supposedly, with his own citizens. But ideally, that was supposed to wither away. And eventually we had Glasnost and Perestroika right before Ronald Reagan left office. But let's move on, because there's issues here of socialist stigmas. The word stigma. You're going to think of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, you're going to think of Stalin, you're going to think of the state killing people and sending people to Siberia, probably. I'm not sure if a lot of the kids know that Sweden, Canada, England, they're socialist countries. France is socialist. They provide health care to their citizens. And it's a gradient. It's what's called a gradient. Some countries are more socialist than others. We are a socialist country. If we were not a socialist country, the state would not be building roads. They would not be providing firemen. It'd be militias would be taking care of the populace, not police officers hired by the state. Those are social programs, you understand? That's socialism, you see. Now, my counter-accusation is this idea of fascism, where the minority tries to impose their will on the majority. and I put the definition on supermajority. Let's see how much time we got going here. I'm halfway through 10 minutes. Okay, so the extremity on that is when you torture your own citizens without due process. And when you ignore the Constitution, we're guaranteed a fair and speedy trial, and you hold people for years on end, like at Guantanamo Bay. We've gone into an era where we've never gone, basically, so far as I know in American history. That's fascism right there, when you just ignore the rule of law. You say, my will matters, not the Congress, not whatever the polls say the people want. You know, we the people out here, in the form of polling. That does not matter. What's in my brain, that's the only thing that matters, see? And then getting it done, that's fascism right there. Now, George Walker Bush was not the first one, obviously, in my life that attacked freedom. Freedom in its core, because I'm a communications major. I was at community college at least, and then I added a college when I went to the Claremont colleges. But linguistics, the words linguistics, and what you gotta understand is liberty, libertad, and liberal. It's the same root. Libertad is Latin for freedom. A liberal person is a free person, okay, by its root meaning. Anyone that's taken the ACT test, right, back on the East Coast, SAT on the West Coast, preparing for college, you understand about root words probably, and how to, you know, conserve, conservation, you know, they have the same root word, they, you know, roughly, they're derivative of the same idea, right? So here Bush is, Herbert Walker Bush, the senior, after Reagan, attacking Michael Dukakis, and he says the L word, because he's a part of the American Civil Liberties Union. Proud card-carrying member of that, right? So, we don't want to mention the L word. The L word is liberal in Bush's mind. And like I said, liberal means free. Now, what's our Constitution? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, you see. So that's an attack on freedom right there by a president. Okay? Verbally, carried out by a son, I believe. Here's another thing too. Listen to Rocking in the Free World by Neil Young. It's funny because in one of his debates he closes by talking about the 1,000 points of light, and no one understood it. What's 1,000 points of light? Well, it's in that song, Rocking in the Free World, ironically. And in '92, when he's debating Bill Clinton, not debating, but referring to Gore, who's the VP under Clinton, you know, the candidate, he calls him the Ozone Man, which is also in that song, which is funny. So anyhow, we have an attack on liberalism by the Republicans, you see, an attack on freedom. This is way before the Patriot Act. The other evidence is after Dukakis and Bush, you have Bob Dole running against Clinton in '96. Okay? It's starting to rain, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. I'll get some drops out here. It's a little overcast, you can tell. Anyway, Bob Dole attacks the liberal media. The reason we're losing is the liberal media. You know what the liberal media is? It's a free media. And that's what we want in this country. We want a free media. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that's not really fair because people are like lambs to the slaughter in this country. That if that's your attitude, they can't think for themselves. They're going to only do what ABC News tells them to do or whatever. This so-called liberal media. First of all, you don't give people enough credit. And second of all, there's a counterbalance to this so-called liberal media. It's conservative management at the places where we work. Your boss most likely is a Republican. Okay? It's not as true anymore since, if you work at the mom and pops and you're afraid of big bad corporate America smashing you to death, there's a lot of Democrats that own businesses, by the way, and, independents. But there was a time when it was almost exclusively Republican. And that's the counterbalance. There's always counterbalances out there. So what do we have here? Gotta go. Out of time. Closure. You have fun. Been a good crowd.